Join me in welcoming from Royal Oak, Michigan, Angelo Caruso.
Wow, thank you very much, Uche and Rita. Seems like my biography gets a little bit longer every year. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I have a great program planned for you if you are interested in some bright news in this dark world that we live in today. I want to talk a little bit about how to make the most of relationships, especially now. I'll talk a little bit about becoming more effective online, since online is a big part of our life these days. And congratulations to the Rotary Club of Brampton for attempting the hybrid program. It's perhaps one of the most difficult programs to host because you're trying to cater to a live audience and simultaneously cater to those that are online. It's not an easy thing to do. There's a lot of juggling involved. So congratulations to the meeting hosts. I also want to talk about some things that have served me very well in getting through the pandemic psychologically, with my business, and so on. At the end, we'll open it up for Q&A and have some free association with questions and constructive comments that you all would like to make. I'll try to keep an eye on the chat even during the talk so that we can answer questions in real time if you just want to type your questions in there. And then before I get started, I want to route you to a Facebook group called Get the Word Out Now. Uche was kind enough to mention it. It's a great place to belong with like-minded people who want to grow their clubs, raise more money, and get attention for the greatest service organization in the world. The group is called Get the Word Out Now on Facebook. I want to open with a quick story. It's a fun story about when all of us used to travel. I was traveling in mid-March when I was out doing a series of PETS. I was going to do 7 PETS, President-elect Training Seminars for Rotary in March and April, in addition to my normal work as a corporate consultant teaching presentation skills. And on March 12th, the gigs started getting canceled as fast as I could travel to them. Many of you went through the same experience. It was a very unusual time, and we had a lot to learn about what we were in for. I still think we're learning. And the reason I mention that time period is because I was flying a lot, and the story I'm about to tell you takes place on an airplane. So I boarded an airplane, and the pilot made a very unusual announcement. This was quite a few years back. He asked everyone that was boarding the plane to get seated as soon as possible because he wanted to leave early. And everybody heard this, and we said, "We'll leave early." I didn't know a plane could leave early. I thought the plane had to leave on time. And it turns out, if everyone's on the plane can leave, right? So this announcement worked like a charm. I don't know why they don't make this announcement on every flight. Everybody hurried up, they sit down, and they get buckled in, and they're ready to take off. And the pilot came on again, and he said, "Thank you very much for your cooperation, everybody. Indeed, we will be leaving early. And that's good news for you because we're going to have a fairly rough flight today. As you can see outside, the bad weather has come in. And if we don't leave right now, you're likely to miss your next connection. So we know you want to leave now. This flight that we're going to take is going to be a fairly violent takeoff. It'll be a rough flight the entire time. We're asking the flight attendants to remain seated. We are suspending all beverage and food service for the duration of the flight. And we just want you to know, even though you can't see outside, if you look out the window, we are in the cockpit, we're flying in a safe condition that we call zero visibility." And as soon as he said zero visibility, everybody gets excited. This doesn't calm everybody down at all. It just gets us more excited. And he was right, man. This was going to be a rough takeoff, one of the most rocky, herky-jerky flights I've ever been on. White-knuckle proposition, even for the veteran flyers on the plane. But something interesting happened as we started to gain altitude. I noticed that even though it was dark and overcast when we took off, and a violent shaking on the plane when we took off, as we gained altitude, things started to smooth out. And in fact, we flew into brighter, pristine sunshine. And you know why this is possible? Because like you in your life, all the plane has to do is decide whether it wants to fly in the clouds or above them. The pilot knew this, of course. He knew that he had the ability to get above the clouds and smooth the ride out for us eventually. And the same thing is true during a pandemic or a recession, or if other things in your life aren't going the way you'd like them to go. If you just hang in there and you weather the storm and you try to fly above the clouds, everything will work out just fine. Well, what we know now about air travel and problem solving in general is that an airplane has to work harder to gain altitude than it does to keep altitude. So sometimes our challenges seem the darkest right when we enter the problem, the vortex of the problem. But once we have our eyes set on a solution, the problem seems to almost work itself out. That's certainly true for the pandemic. It's true for political situations. It's true for all kinds of things that we go through in this lifetime. And I certainly appreciate everybody on the call that's been so patient with all of the multitudes of problems we seem to be having these days. You know, sometimes during problems we forget the things that we have. It was the great philosopher Eddie Money, who's actually a pop singer, who sang a song, Baby Hold On. It was his very first hit single. I know a little bit about music because, as Uche mentioned, I came up through the music business. My band opened for people like Rick Springfield, Corey Hart, who I know is from Canada, and Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, for example. And Eddie Money had this famous saying, a lyric in Baby Hold On. He sang, don't be thinking about what's not enough, baby. Just be thinking about what we got. And what we have, what you'll always have, are people around you that care about you, like family members, or people on your work team, or Rotarians who care deeply about you. I think sometimes the challenge is we don't express that often enough, and we're in a hurry sometimes to catch up on the little stuff. We never actually get to the big stuff. Even now in business calls, as I talk to clients and people that want to improve their situation in terms of presentation skills, so often we ask the cursory question, how are you today? But what we really should be asking is, how are you feeling? Are you and your family healthy? And then you get the most remarkable stories of someone who had COVID, or an entire family that had COVID, or a work team that has COVID. And they share with you about this difficult time that they went through. And there's a moment, watch my fingers everybody, there's a moment that instead of having this kind of a bond, you can have this kind of a bond with someone just by sharing that little exchange about something difficult that happened, that you were able to navigate that storm. And you can share it with a total stranger, and there's a bond. And that bond never goes away. You just feel like you had a moment with that person. So I want to talk about a couple of techniques and strategies that you can use to improve relationships with people. Some of you may do this already. And we're going to play a little game today. In the lower bottom tray of your Zoom interface, there's a button that says Reactions. Give me a thumbs up if you can see the button that says Reactions. There you go. Suzanne's already clicked it. Uche, thank you. Field. When you agree with what I say, if you could just give me a thumbs up, that lets me know I'm on track. You'll notice there is no button to disagree with me. So, only agreement. I'm interested in disagreement. If you have a comment, please, again, type it into chat and we'll take care of you. So one of the things I would recommend that when we're in a hurry to get through calls or conversations, that's the exact time to slow down. Are any of you in sales? I know some of you are logging in from work. I can tell by your backgrounds. Anybody logging in from work today or from the job? Is anybody involved with sales or selling or persuasion of any kind? Maybe you're a team leader and you need your people. Thank you, John. You need people to do what you ask them to do. Thank you, Gail. Nancy, thank you very much. So if you think that you're having trouble connecting with the people closest to you, you have to have like this breaker switch in your head go off and say, I'm not spending enough time with this person. I need to spend more quality time. And you can do so by digging into the conversation a bit more. Sometimes it helps if you're having a stand-up conversation just to sit down for a second. Sometimes you're the person standing up and you have an opportunity to sit down. Sometimes the other person is the one standing and you invite them in to sit down for a second. You see what this does? This sets up what psychologists call psychological equity. So I'm not talking down to you. You're not literally and figuratively talking down to me. We're talking to each other on an even playing field. And that, again, can only increase the currency of the relationship. Another technique that I urge people to use, and Uche did a great job on this during the introduction, is that when you're introducing people or talking about something that's about to happen or talking about another person, that when you insert something called the positive adjective in front of the noun, you insert emotion and excitement and endorsement for whatever it is or whoever it is that you're talking about. I'll give you a few examples of this. Let's say you're planning an event. You could say we're planning an event, or you could say we're planning an exciting event. Which one is more appealing to you, the exciting event or the event? If you're marketing a guest speaker, it could be a guest speaker, kind of a neutral adjective, or it could be an amazing speaker. It could be a funny speaker. It could be an interesting speaker. It could be a famous speaker. And so often in our promotions, we leave out that one little word, that positive adjective that allows the message to have some sort of an emotional appeal. And we'll find that that really improves things when you can remember to do it. So you want to use positive adjectives and you want to actually invest more time into those phone calls. Sometimes you can, if you're texting, I just did it this morning. I was texting with somebody. We had 2 or 3 rounds of texts. And it didn't seem like we were connecting with each other. And I said, do you have time for a quick phone call? Sometimes I'll just call the person. I won't ask for permission. If they answer the phone, great. And we worked it out in a call and we were able to share some information that we might not have normally shared, and everybody was better for it. So to slow down the relationship a little bit can help a lot when you're trying to improve relations. Let's talk about the second thing I'd like to share with you today, and that is ways that you can become more efficient using technology. All of us have been thrown into the Zoom swimming pool. Congratulations to those of you that have figured it out and feel a bit better about it. Give me a thumbs up if you feel better about Zoom than you did 100 days ago. I'd be interested to know that. I certainly feel better about Zoom. A number of people didn't know how to use a webcam. Many of us didn't know we had a webcam. And now we're starting to get the hang of it. I think now we should be into Zoom 201. So we're out of 101 and 102, and we're into Zoom 201. One technique that's very useful that you might have been able to use today on the call is when people come into the reception area. You know how some Rotary clubs have a physical greeter, that when you come into the Rotary meeting, there's someone there to meet you physically, shake your hand, say hello, have a kind word, orient you to the room. You're going to get your beverages over there. You're going to sit down over here. Don't forget to register at this table, right? And it's good to have that kind of person working for you in the Zoom platform. I know the meeting planners today, and I know this because I've hosted hybrid meetings, virtual and online. And they're busy with technology. They're busy with the physicality of the room. They're greeting guests. They have other things they need to be doing. And so they can't pay as much attention to the Zoom audience as they might like to. So you can assign somebody to be a greeter on Zoom. Doesn't have to be a titled person, just somebody with a sense of chat and somebody who's good at greeting people as they come on. You have 53 people on the call today. It's going to be impossible to greet everybody all at once. Hi, Mara. Hi, Norm. Hi, Suzanne. Hi, Carol. Hi, John. Hi, Glenn. Nobody wants to listen to 53 names in a row. But if you grab people when they come on in what we call in the business a rolling start, it's a lovely way to greet people. And you could even have 2 greeters. One's greeting physically like this on camera, and the other's typing in the chat. How are you, Lloyd? What club are you in? Bali, thanks for signing in. It's good to see you again. Hello, Kathleen Dick. I've seen you on Facebook. And you see how, thumbs up if you can see how this would help people feel good, that they would be recognized in person by their name in a personal greeting like this. It's a lovely, lovely technique. You almost can't go wrong with it. So I thought I would recommend that to you. Another technique I want to share with you in the physical realm, as far as improving technology skills, is an old strategy that's been available on your iPhone or your cell phone for a long time. Hi, Kathleen, you got your camera on. And this technique is called the three-way call, everybody. So you can do it on any phone, Androids, whatever. On the iPhone, you would be speaking with a certain person who would mention another person, a third party who's not on the call by name. He might mention that person 3 or 4 times. Well, clearly this other person needs to be in on this call. Under normal conditions, what you'd have to do is take notes. Oh yeah, I'll talk to this other person and then I'll call you back. So you hang up from that call and now you've got homework. You've got to call the other person, the third person, have the conversation with the third person, and then you've got to call the first person again and report back on what happened. You see how this could be the better part of a day with voicemail and return calls and all that kind of thing. But there's a better alternative, and it's a very simple technique. I'm going to walk you through it quickly. Just to make sure I'm talking to the right people, I want you to do a thumbs up if you've actually done a three-way call on your phone. Thumbs up if you've done one and you know how. You can teach a class on it. And we can see not very many people. A few. Half. Okay? And maybe you've done one in your life, but you haven't done one this year. Consider getting this into your technique set because it's very, very valuable. Here's how you save a lot of time. I'm on the phone with somebody who keeps talking about this other person. I say, you keep talking about this other person. What do you say we get them on the call? We can work this out right now. There's an uncomfortable pause because the other person hadn't thought of this, right? And they say, well, sure, let's do it. And you say, hang on one second. I'm going to dial up the other person. Then I'm going to merge the 2 calls. There's a thing that says add another call. You dial up the other person. Then you press a button that says merge calls. And you say, person A, can you hear me? They say, yep. Person B, can you hear me? They say, yep. Okay, now where were we? And you talk with everybody on the call at the same time. You're done in 2 minutes, no homework assignment, and everybody was connected. You played that role for them. You connected them. It's lovely. And you can do it on any cell phone, as I mentioned. So those are 2 technology tricks for you. One is this idea of using greeters on Zoom calls so there's never dead air. You're always using that time to make it Rotary or whatever group you're in. Lively and interactive, right? And you're telling people what's new and you're reminding them that they should join the Zone 2832 Facebook page for getting updates on all the new things, right? I just did the trick. And hopefully that's helpful to you. The last thing I want to talk about today, and then we can do some Q&A, and then I assume somebody's watching the clock for me. That would be great. And we're getting some comments, by the way. Let's read a couple of those as we're moving. So you've been using your Rotary Club as an e-club, so it's pretty conversant. That's good. Suzanne likes the ideas that I've been sharing. Thank you very much, Suzanne. Marianne says, interesting spelling, Marianne. My church puts us into small groups so we can chat prior to church and then switches them up after church so we can chat with someone else. That's great. We've gotten to know people we wouldn't have gotten to know much better because of the small breakout groups. Fantastic. And breakout rooms in Zoom are Zoom 201, of course. And there's a way that the moderator can say, you've got 1 more minute. So you can really dial this in and make it like a TV show if you care to. Bravo. So the third technique or skill set I want to talk about today for staying motivated through difficult times is this idea of what you care to spend time on. I have a confession, ladies and gentlemen. In the early days of COVID, I became aware of something on Bing, the browser, that there is a COVID tracker where you can look at, a thumbs up if any of you use the COVID tracker on Bing. It really is something interesting. It shows you every case that's been reported in the world. Thank you, Suzanne. Every case by country, every fatality by country. Thank you, Norm. And then it can break down, as I looked at in the early days, it breaks down by state. So in the early days, I knew that Michigan, which is where I'm at, was one of the top 5 states. It was what they call the hot spot. And in the early days, of course, everybody was worried to death about, literally to death about COVID because nobody knew exactly what was going on. And it bothered me that we were a top 5 state. These days, by the way, Michigan is number 18 in the United States. So I'm not as interested in, the darkness in Michigan as I was initially. What I also discovered is it wasn't good for my psychological well-being to look at the COVID tracker every single day. Sometimes I was looking at it twice a day. What I've learned, ladies and gentlemen, during hard times, difficult times, we have an election coming up here in America that's got people in a tizzy, is that I spend the time on things I can do something about. I only worry about things that I can impact. There's too much negativity going on in the world for me to concern myself with all of it. And I'm certainly not going to bother you with all of it on Facebook. Kathy Dick's a Facebook friend of mine. I'm not going to trouble Kathy with my politics and my worries in my Facebook posts every time I post to Facebook. It's not healthy for me. Now, I know different people have different thermostats for this. A lot of people can struggle with this for 24 hours a day. But that's my contribution back to society. I'm not going to trouble you with my troubles just because I happen to be thinking about something. And I think that's something that all of us need to keep an eye on during this difficult time. We don't know how much longer this kind of thing is going to go on. And Rotary, by the way, has a lot of struggles. Here in North America, we have some membership issues, and the pandemic is not helping. So I want you all to keep your chin up, as they say in Mother England, and think about this idea of flying above the clouds as often as you can, because it really is a good place for us to be as role models for the rest of the people that we hang around with. We have another comment here from Stephanie. Thank you for the inspirational presentation. Thank you, Stephanie. And she's sharing her email for anybody that wants to keep in touch with her in Sri Lanka. I'd be happy to open it up for Q&A or answer any questions you might have, either about the topics that we mentioned today or even public image topics within the Rotary realm. I'm an open book. I'll just tell you what I feel, and I appreciate very, very much the invitation to be with you today. Thank you for all you do for Rotary, the greatest service organization in the world.